I am live on Allison's Thursday Tips. My name is Jenn Taylor, and I'm hoping that she jumps on here. Until then, I'm going to introduce myself. Why in the world am I on here on Allison's tip page? Like I said, and let me get this set up a little bit better. Apologize, everybody. That's not better. I am Jenn Taylor. I am mom of 18, and yes, that does mean 18 children. That's a story in and of itself. I'm also the host of a podcast for 4.5 years called At a Crossroads with a Naked Podcaster. I am a transformational coach for Christian women, which is my heart and my passion. I'm also a motivational speaker. I've written a blog for the past 10 years called Mom's Running It. I'm a runner, in case that wasn't clear. I'm also a published author. I am living in Reno, Nevada for the last 17 years. I have an amazing husband. Thanks for having me, Allison. I've married the most amazing man in the whole world. So, Christian transformational coach, what does that look like? I don't know about you, but I am my avatar. Myself at my worst is my avatar. A lot of businesses that help you get started in your own business tell you, like, find your ideal client. And in my experience on my podcast, 100% of entrepreneurs launch their business from their personal struggle. And they want to make it for other people faster, easier, and more supported than their struggle was for them. So my struggle was, I woke up one day, maybe many days on end, thinking, there's got to be more than this. I loved being a mom. I loved being married. I loved doing foster care. I loved everything about my life, and that was a bonus. I chose my life and I loved it. And I knew that if I didn't love it, I could make better or different choices. But I was divorced. I was by myself. I was living in a new place. And I know we need to go running, Allison. I love it. Yes. So I woke up lots of days feeling like I had checked all of life's boxes. I still ended up divorced. I had been a member of a cult for 17 years, and I left the cult and the marriage at the same time. And I was having a crisis. And that's probably not the language that you would use. It's the language that I used. It was a crisis in my faith. It was a crisis in relationships. It was a crisis of, holy cow, am I failing on every front? I went from a stay-at-home mom for 10 years to corporate world, and what a shift. I had done foster care, and I kept doing it even though I was single. And I just felt lost. Like, guys, this can't be all there is. I was stressed. I was overwhelmed. I wasn't doing anything for myself. And I didn't even realize it at the time. I was on autopilot, getting from one moment, one day to the next day. For the crisis in my faith, I knew from the time I was a really young kid that I believed in God. So I felt strongly that I was Christian through that whole ordeal, but I had no idea where my place was anymore. I loved being a mom, although putting my kids in daycare, going from a stay-at-home mom to a corporate mom, that was really, really tough. And that was a crisis for me. Feeling like I was never home enough with my kids. I was never doing enough for my boss. I never had time for myself. I would drive home from work thinking, I just need to process my work day and decompress on the fly and get home so that I could switch gears and be my the best version of my mom self for my kids, get dinner, do homework, tuck kids in, do baths, and I was exhausted. When you wake up feeling like, oh my gosh, there has got to be more to life than this, and maybe you're struggling with outside things, maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's depression, maybe it's anxiety, definitely stress and overwhelm, then that's who I'm a coach for. I'm a coach for me. I went through it the long way, and I don't want you to have to do that. I talked to Alison earlier about how like every single woman has a period every single month from like the age of 13 to, post-menopause. And yet we walk into the aisle of the grocery store and feel embarrassed that we're buying tampons. Like it's something weird or unusual. And it's always struck me as odd that women don't band together. I went through infertility, and I love talking to women about the infertility journey. I had 3 miscarriages. One was twins at 19 weeks, and we don't talk about miscarriages. Alison and I have talked about miscarriages. Thank you, Alison. But we don't share that stuff. We don't share menopause. I thought I'm postmenopausal. Whoop, whoop. And I thought hot flashes were like the superhero, really good looking one that goes flame on, and like bursts into flame and flies away. I remember having a hot flash and seeing that movie and being like, yes, that should have been a woman in her 50s. Because that's menopause right there, Mr. Flame On. And we don't talk about it. And we don't talk about how much we feel like we're failing as parents, or we feel like we're failing at the job, or we feel like there's not enough of us to go around, or we feel like there's no time to get everything done, and our houses aren't as clean as we want them to be, and we're not organized. And Alison and I definitely share some ideas about menu planning and saving time. I love the overlap in coaching. Really though, when you're that woman who feels like, holy cow, I want more self-confidence, I want more courage, I don't want to be stressed and overwhelmed, I feel like I'm being judged, you want to build stronger connections to your faith, I have a 12-week program that'll be starting by the beginning of 2022. Another huge component to this for me, and since I am my avatar, then I'm going to share this with you because I'm expecting that the people that come to me for coaching are pretty much in the same boat. But tell me if you think this is pretty common. Often, we've had traumas in our past. It can look like anything. It can be PTSD from any number of things, from the military to a car accident. It can be divorce. It can be a trauma, a sexual trauma. It can be the trauma of losing a child. But we come with this backpack of rocks, this weight that we're carrying that is the baggage of our past traumas, trying to do our best jobs and be our best selves. And yet sometimes when you lay in bed at night, the voice in the back of your head is like, oh, funny, you want to sleep right now? Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a lot of crap from when you were a kid or something that's unresolved from work. And I'm just going to nag at you until you're an overwhelmed mess, and you don't sleep tonight because we want to add lack of sleep to how stressed we are. Those traumas are something I work with all of my clients one-on-one. So in that 3-month period of time, you meet with me for 2 hours one-on-one, 3 different times, and we talk really, really specifically about your traumas, your limiting beliefs. I'm an NLP practitioner, so I love that we can work through traumas without talk therapy, without you having to tell me your whole story and dive back into that, and that a year from now we're still talking about that story, but you don't feel resolution. It's very, very different from that, and I loved it. I grew up being molested. I lost my virginity to date rape. So sexual trauma was one of mine, and I love talking about sex. I'm sorry I went on that tangent, but it is one of my favorite topics. I have a really healthy, happy, exciting, chase my husband around the house sex life, but I came from a place of a lot of trauma and grief. So you can too. So we're the group 2 times a week we meet, and one time I am sharing information, and another time often I am bringing on an expert like Alison to come and talk to you about something, one of the 12 topics specifically, and take kind of a deep dive into that topic specifically. I'm one person. I have lots of information and almost 30 years of parenting experience and working in the corporate world and as an NLP practitioner. but I'm still one person and one way to do things. So I love bringing on experts. The group creates a dynamic where people can get to know each other on top of getting to know me, where it's a community. And that's in my private Facebook group. And either Alison or myself can go on and leave that link in the comments so that you can jump on and join that group. That's where I have some content that I share everywhere, but that is also where I share exclusive content. I want you to be able to DIY your journey if that's how you want to start it out. And when you are ready for a coach, you can jump in on that. I want to leave you with one. Alison kind of talked about free writing when we chatted earlier. And free writing, maybe it's a little bit different, but free writing just means you write down everything you're thinking of, everything that needs to get done, everything you're thinking of, you brain dump on paper. It's like verbally vomiting with a pen. It's very good, super cathartic. And that is one thing. I have top 13 things. You know what I want to share with you today? I just always wait and let myself feel more led where I'm going to go, and that is smiling. And I love that, free writing. Yes, I'm going to talk about smiling. I have something that you can do with your kids if they're the age that they walk, so a little bit older. I always tried to stay, like, as a mom, and I had 18 kids, so I always like kind of led the way into the grocery store, and I made it my mission to really genuinely smile, like with the intention that the person that makes eye contact, that I smile at, it makes their day better. And what happens are two things in this situation. One, people almost 100% of the time will smile back. We really, as human beings, are longing for connection, and it's just this little way to do it. It does another thing. It actually does three things. The other thing it did is that it meant people walking towards us that made eye contact with me that I smiled at would be smiling like crazy when my kids were looking at them. And I just loved the thought that as we were walking into a store or through a store or somewhere public, that every person that my kids looked at as they were walking towards them would be smiling at them. What a great day that is. The science behind smiling is incredible. Your brain doesn't know if you're faking it or not, and it perpetuates. It's like that hamster wheel that keeps happening. Like, you smile, somebody smiles back, you smile, somebody smiles back, and you guys just keep going. And legitimately, it puts you in a better mood just because you're taking the time to smile. So you can do something for someone else. You can do something for the people walking behind you, my kids, and you can do something for yourself just by smiling. I interviewed a woman who was in the graduating class with 3 of my girls who are all now 21, and she earned the superlative of most smiley, and she thought that was interesting because she tried to take her life her freshman year of high school. And after things fortunately didn't go well in that department, she decided she was just going to do everything she could to smile. She didn't know about the science. She didn't know anything about it. And by the end of her senior year, she got the most smiley. She was one of the most positive people anyone had been around. She went from feeling suicidal to being voted the most smiley, positive person just because in the beginning, she faked it. That is my tidbit of value information. I gave you 2. I gave you free writing, verbally vomit. You can crunch it up and burn it. You can use it to start a book. It can be a blog post. It can be a list of things you need to do. It can be anything you want. There are no rules, and I love no rules. Thank you so much for letting me bomb on here and take over, and I am now going to finish up, but get in touch if you want to. And Alison, it was a pleasure.